This is from Arthur Schlesinger. He says, we're not going to achieve a new world order without paying for it in blood as well as in words and money. We're going to end up with world government. It's inevitable. There's going to be conflict, coercion, and consensus. That's all part of what will be required as we give birth to the first global civilization. James Paul Warburg, a major player in the Federal Reserve scam, boasted confidently on February the 17th, 1950, before the U.S. Senate, quote, "We shall have world government, whether we like it or not. The only question is whether world government will be achieved by conquest or consent." Dr. Henry Kissinger at a Bilderberger conference in Evian, France, 1991. This is very important. Look closely at these words. Today, America would be outraged if UN troops entered Los Angeles to restore order. Tomorrow, however, they will be grateful. This is especially true if they were told that there were an outside threat from beyond, whether real or promulgated, in other words, made up or trumped up, that threatened our very existence. It is then that all peoples of the world will plead to deliver them from this evil. The one thing every man fears is the unknown. When presented with this scenario, individual rights will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of their well-being granted to them by the world government. What is happening right now since 9/11? We've been losing our rights left and right by law for seeking to find terrorists. See, it's a threat. It's the Hegelian dialectic. The Hegelian dialectic means that you have let me see if I can get this right. A thesis, then you have an antithesis or an antithesis, and that gives you a synthesis. Now, it's complicated words. Here's what it means. You create a problem, you offer a solution to the problem, the answer to which gives you what you really want. Okay, let's see. What do we really want? Well, what we really want is to get that oil that we discovered down in the Caspian Sea out to the market. So we start building a pipeline across Afghanistan. But then the Taliban comes in and starts blowing the pipeline up. I don't like my pipeline being blown up, especially when I think I rule the world, one of the oil companies. And so, tell you what, we have a problem. We go to the Taliban. Taliban won't cooperate with us, so we've got to overthrow the Taliban. Okay, how can we overthrow the Taliban so we can lay a couple of pipelines across Afghanistan so we can get massive amounts of oil that we discovered in the Caspian Sea area? Oh, we got another problem too, because we can't have our world government because Mr. Police Officer, the United States, is standing in the way between us and our world government. We've got to move America into a police state so we can control all of those freedom-loving Americans. We got to control them. We got to know where they are at every minute, what they purchase, everything they do, so we can have control. Now let's see, how can we do this? How can we get the oil out of the Caspian Sea and at the same time control the Americans so that we can do the evil things we want to do? Hey, I got an idea, and I'll give you 9/11. What I think really happened is they really trumped up 9/11. Had a prophet in my office one day, and I said, "Did you get anything on 9/11? In other words, meaning, did God speak to you on 9/11, tell you it was coming? And he said, "No, not a thing." He said, "But I will tell you this." He said, "On the morning of 9/11, my cell phone rang. A good friend of mine, high up in the government calling. He said, "You remember I told you that there's going to be an event that's going to hit America harder than Pearl Harbor?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Turn on your TV." So I went over and I turned on my TV, and he said, "Now what you're looking at is the first plane has just flown into the first World Trade Center." He said, "Keep watching. There's going to be another plane flying to the other World Trade Center." He said, "Both trade centers are going to fall." He said, "But they're going to fall from pre-planted explosives from within the building." He says it's going to be done from organizations from within the United States, but they'll blame it on the Arabs, and more is to come. You see, we have a problem. What we want out here is world government. We want our Caspian Sea oil. We have to put America into a police state. So what we have to do is create a problem. Oklahoma City, 9/11, and there's more, by the way. As a matter of fact, David Rockefeller, founder of the Trilateral Commission, in an address to one of their meetings in June of 1991 says, "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Time Magazine, and other great publications. Those directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world, in other words, world government, if we had been subjected to the bright lights of publicity. In other words, if the watchdogs had barked, they wouldn't have been able to get away with it. You see, but they bought the watchdogs, they shut the watchdogs up, and now they're getting away with it. The bright lights of publicity during those years, but the work is now much more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supernatural sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodetermination practiced in past centuries." You know what he's saying? We, the ruling elite, we, this evil cabal of the super wealthy, really, the super wealthy, are more capable of running this world than the people that live in it. Pretty arrogant. You see, again, let's go back to the Hegelian dialectic. Let's create a problem, offer the solution moves us to our goal, and that's where they're heading. The first task is population control at home. How do we go about it? Many of my colleagues feel that some sort of compulsory birth regulation would be necessary to achieve such control. One plan often mentioned involves the addition of temporary sterilants to water supplies or staple food. Doses of the antidote would be carefully, in other words, only rationed to the ones they want to have children, would be carefully rationed by the government to produce the desired population size. All right, now let's get into the police state. I've broken it down in these categories: find, identify, track, search, monitor, arrest, and force the decision. First of all, let's talk about find. How is this world evil elite that thinks that they have the right to control every person on earth, how are they going to find those against them? And by the way, who are those against them? Well, that would be basically anybody that doesn't want a world government that is godless. Well, let's see. Who would not want a government that doesn't have God in it? Also, that would be anyone that would resist their mark of the beast, resist worshiping Lucifer. Now let's see, who would resist worshiping Lucifer? You see, basically it boils down to, there's two groups of people. Those people that are evil, those people that don't know about the evil, those people that don't care about the evil, and then over here a very, very small group called the Christians. Very, very small group. You see, who they really want to find, brothers and sisters, is you. You are the problem. You are the problem. I understand that Gorbachev is quoted as saying the biggest threat to communism are those tongue-talking Christians. So how are they going to find us? How will they find those? Ted Gunderson was a speaker for us a few years ago. He's also a former FBI bureau chief, not just an FBI agent. He supervised, I think it was like, well, let's put it this way, a lot of FBI agents. And he explained to me when he was speaking on tour about Hot on the Hook. Now, here's what Hot on the Hook is. Here's the way they can monitor your phone. There are several different ways. One of the ways is the phone rings and you pick it up and you say hello and there's no one there. We get some of those, right? Okay. And sometimes on the little caller ID it just says out of area or private call, and there's no one there. And you hang it up and you think, need a conversation. You think when you hang that phone up that that phone is disconnected. Wrong. They have what they call Hot on the Hook. Even though you hang it up, that phone is just as if you were still holding it up. And a phone in a room can hear everything in that room. They turn it up, they magnify what it is listening to, and it can hear every conversation. Sometimes it can even pick up conversations in the adjoining room. They say that every phone in America is monitored. Now, Ted Gunderson told me this, and I believed him at the time. However, I've had two other interesting conversations. It's interesting when you do a radio program and God wants you to know the truth, how he dumps the information into your lap.